Hello, everyone. As you heard, my name is Eva White. I'm an analyst with ORPC, which is Ocean Renewable Power Company, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the American Tidal Energy Project today. There's a lot within this project, but I'm going to try and keep it relatively short. So we're going to kind of regress back to the energy conversation earlier and talk some more about possibilities for energy in the Cook Inlet. So a little bit about ORPC really quickly. We're about 20 years old. We're headquartered in Maine, but we have offices in Canada, Ireland, Chile, and also in Anchorage. So I'm in the Anchorage office. My colleagues Luke and Doug are in the Anchorage office as well. And we've been in Alaska since 2006. Our goal, we convert the kinetic energy from moving water into clean, predictable, and affordable sources of electricity. And we really like to focus on keeping jobs in the local community and developing in coordination with the area that we're working in. So we've done 18 deployments. 6 of them have been in Alaska, and we've got 2 devices out in Igiagig, which is just over the inlet. Off of Lake Iliamna. We've been working with them for many, many years, and they've been a really wonderful partner with us throughout the project. And there's several others as well. We have a couple different technologies we've been working on, but I won't go into too much detail on that. So now to switch gears a little bit more and talk about the project itself, the American Tidal Energy Project. There's a really big picture at play here. The big picture is to develop a commercially viable, standalone tidal energy market in Cook Inlet that supplies the rail belt with clean, predictable, and affordable electricity. That's a really big goal, and we've talked a lot about big goals today in terms of the energy supply in Cook Inlet. We are going to start with the first step, which is the American Tidal Energy Project. This is a 2 megawatt installation, a first of its kind installation, and I'll tell you more about potentially where it could be sited. We're in talks with the Department of Energy for additional funding to complete the project and to continue the project. We've done phase 1, which I'll talk more about in a few slides. And so we are going to integrate 2 different technologies into an installation while involving stakeholders in the region. So this was a project and is a project funded out of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This is the first large-scale investment in U.S. tidal undercurrent energy. And so the project kicked off in June of 2024. We worked for about 10 months on phase 1, which we just finished up at the end of March. 2 different awards were issued for a phase 1, and then those awards, only 1 award will be selected for additional funding. We are currently in the process of that funding selection for an additional $29 million that will only go to one of the projects. ORPC is the project developer for the East Foreland project, and Opalco is a utility down in the Puget Sound. They're the developer for the other project, and we'll find out hopefully in the next couple of months what that DOE decision is going to be. So in phase 1, we did a lot of the planning for the project. So we did a lot of the contacting all of the stakeholders in the area, getting project input, doing preliminary engineering, and starting our permitting process. It's a very lengthy permitting process. Phases 2 through 5 would be seeing that through to the installation of devices into the water, developing a local workforce, and doing our monitoring for the project itself. So we're hoping to enter into those phases if we are awarded that money. So as part of our phase 1 project, or process, we took 3 different technologies. We had 2 different organizations that are experts in the field evaluate those technologies. That would be the European Marine Energy Center and the Tidal Energy Corporation. They gave their input as to which technologies would be well suited for the Cook Inlet for tidal energy. And they told us that Proteus and ORPC's technology would be the best to move on to phase 2. So that's just moving them forward into the permitting processes for the next phase of the project. Aquantis is the last technology that was more of a surface expression technology that they will still be involved in an advisory capacity, but we are only going to move 2 technologies on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the technologies. So in addition to being the project developer, ORPC is also a technology provider within this project, which can get a little bit confusing. But each of these technologies has a significant environmental monitoring component that has been done on past installations. I have those slides at the very end, and I'm happy to talk more about that, but it's a bigger conversation, and I wanted to make sure I was being mindful of time. So there's a lot more to each of the environmental monitoring of these devices as well. This device is the Tide Gen 80. This is basically some turbines which are suspended under a pontoon. The pontoon is then anchored into the seafloor, and the device sits in the middle of the water column. So the tide will come in and spin the turbines, and then the tide will go out and spin the turbines the other way. This is rated at about 230 kilowatts at 3.5 meters per second, and the specs for the size are on the bottom there. So that's one of the technologies. This is the other technology, the Proteus AR series technology. We've chosen 2 technologies to move on in the process because of the risk reduction into this project that having different technologies brings. Each technology is suited for different areas within the inlet, and this is a first of its kind project, and we will see how things go. But having 2 technologies in the process helps reduce that risk. So Proteus is our second technology provider. They've been around for about 22 years, and they have several successful deployments in several countries that are currently generating a lot of electricity. This is basically a small wind turbine that sits on the sea floor. And so the thing that you might be thinking is that this thing is just going to absolutely churn up the water. But because water is 8 times denser than air, this can be a lot smaller than the wind turbines we might see on land and move a lot slower. So it takes about 5 seconds to do a full revolution, so 12 RPM, and it's rated at 1.75 megawatts at 2.6 meters per second for flow speeds. So this will also spin with the tide going both directions, and is rated relatively high for a singular device. So as part of the project, as I mentioned, there will be a significant environmental monitoring component. Within phase 2, we're going to do a lot of field work associated with that environmental monitoring component, and site characterization, measuring velocities, baseline acoustics for the beluga, geophysical and geotechnical measurements, beluga monitoring, cultural resources assessment, and terrestrial habitat assessment. In phases 3 through 5, the installation and operation phases of the project, we will have a protected species monitoring and mitigation plan for all of these listed protected or proposed threatened species. And we work very closely with regulatory agencies throughout all parts of this process. We've had several meetings. We call it the adaptive management process. And we take into account their input into the process and the project throughout the project, rather than all the way at the end or at certain benchmarks of the project. And so that allows us to co-develop with the experts in the field. And we do the same thing with community organizations and involve them as much as they would like to be involved with the project as it comes along. So so that helps inform our protected species monitoring and mitigation plan, working with the resource agencies that are based here. So tidal energy has maybe been a term that has come up in terms of the energy capacity within Cook Inlet. It is a huge resource. As you all know, you live here, you watch the tide come in and out. It is clearly a lot of water moving very quickly. It's been estimated to be 18 gigawatts of electricity each time, or of energy each time the tide moves in and out. The load on the rail belt is between, I believe, 400 and 800 megawatts. So just harnessing a small bit of that 18 gigawatts could help stabilize the rail belt grid. This is not a solution for tomorrow. As I said, this is a very big picture goal, and we have to install the turbines and devices to see if this is possible. This is a staged process, but the resource is definitely there. So the project area that we're looking at is this blue box right here off of East Foreland. And the reason that we're looking at it is because, as I showed in this slide, there's a very high flow speed in that general area. You can kind of see the red mark that's right off East Foreland down there. And also the infrastructure that is nearby. There's the rig tender facility dock nearby, which will help with installation and maintenance of the turbines, as well as a close intertie with the Bernice Lake substation. So that will reduce costs of the project by decreasing the amount of transmission line that we would have to run all the way from the turbines out into the substation and connect it to the grid. We've been really lucky to have really awesome partners and supporters throughout this project so far. I've listed many of them here, and the ones in green are the ones that are local to Alaska or have offices in Alaska. So we're really excited to continue working with these partners and to keep as much of the project within Alaska as we possibly can. This is also a screenshot from our website. It's called AmericanTidalEnergy.com. We've had a webinar that's posted on the website. If you want to access the slides, this slide deck as a little bit expanded, or watch the presentation, it is on the website. So to touch briefly on the project accomplishments thus far, so we've been working on this project within this DOE grant in phase 1 for about 10 months now. At the end of our phase 1, we submitted 17 deliverables, including a 1,300-page draft pilot license application to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. The public comment period on that is open, so if you want to go comment on that, you have until May 17th. We gathered 20 letters of support, including 10 from Kenai stakeholders, as well as Senator Murkowski and Governor Dunleavy, and we feel that we have laid the groundwork really well for future phases of the project. So thank you to all who helped us do this. It was a no small effort, and I think a really exciting opportunity, and hopefully we are awarded the additional money from the DOE. So that's alluding to our next steps. We're waiting to hear in the next couple of months what will happen with that process of being awarded an additional $29 million to complete this project over the next 5 years. We are currently planning a 2025 and 2026 field season. That is contingent on funding and permitting, but the goal of that would be to take additional measurements in Cook Inlet that would inform the development process, FERC licensing, and permitting. And we're continuing to do stakeholder engagement activities that will run throughout all of the project. It's very important to continue to involve stakeholders, especially on the local level, with the project itself. So that's why we're here. It's been really great to hear about what's been going on in the area and learn about things I didn't know about the KPEDD. And so we'll continue to do that throughout the project. And that's all I got. My email's on the screen, and that's our project website.